What is good, guys? A shout out to you guys who came in from our other show. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about some serious ish today. First things first, welcome to the show. I'm your host Duke. Go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button if you're fucking with the show because we got a lot to talk about here today. All right, and for those of you guys who don't know, this channel we particularly focus on politics, but we don't like to get deep into the weeds. We like to focus some more on the big overarching picture, right? What is the plan that the deep state hegemony have for the rest of us plebs out there? All right, in Europe, you guys, a lot of you guys are suffering right now, so you don't understand what it is we are going through. So here's the thing with the big war that's going on. All right, there are a couple things that are riding on this. All right, and what I mean by that is particularly the fall of Ukraine itself and the conclusion of this war. How about that? All right, if you want to talk about stakes being high, there's no bigger stakes than this. All right, and the town we're going to be talking about today is Bakhmut. All right, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's Bakhmut, how whatever it is. All right, listen, I'm not well versed in how to pronounce Ukrainian cities, but Bakhmut, if you guys have known, it's a city, or if you listen to most mainstream media sources, they'll say it's a little town that they're so obsessed over, right? The Russians, they're so desperate to capture this town, and realistically, it doesn't really mean anything. Bakhmut has no strategic value whatsoever. All right. So if you listen to mainstream media, yeah, and your thoughts on Bakhmut, you're probably like, well, it's some obscure town that has no strategic value to Ukraine whatsoever. So if Russia wants to capture it, whatever. I mean, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you, because those same guys said the exact same thing about Soledar. And then the Russians got it all of a sudden, and it's no longer important. So going to it, the reason why we're having this conversation today is because Bakhmut actually, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you, it's actually very, very important. It's one of the main strongholds that Ukraine has right now. One of the main holdouts, one of the main fortifications that they had. And it actually had a lot of strategic significance. All right. There are a lot of roads that flow through Bakhmut that will also, with that update, they're able to get supplies through other state forts throughout the battlefront, right? So they use roads that lead through Bakhmut, because Bakhmut is a strategic hub. All right, it's got a lot of roads going in and out, and it's not a small town like the Western mainstream media would like you to believe, right? And that's what gets a lot of these Westerners, in their heads, like, yeah, Russia, they're so stupid, throwing bodies at this little small town. No, Bakhmut is a town or city of 70,000 people. All right, it's got a lot of manufacturing centers to it. Some agricultural centers are also located in Bakhmut too as well. And another thing that makes Bakhmut so important, if that city were to fall, which is going to within the next few days or within a week, realistically, that's a clear path that Russia has, not only to the nearby towns to it, but they're basically clearing everything all the way up to the river. I think they call it the Dniprov River, right? So they'll have all that free, unrestricted rain there. So why are we talking about it right now? Is because Bakhmut is officially surrounded. Their days are numbered. Matter of fact, there are videos and reports coming out right now of Ukrainian troops actively fleeing the area. They're retreating. All right, they're tactically retreating, if you want to call it that, depending on what media sources you're listening to. So they're getting their butts up out of there. All right, the soldiers are basically, you see them on video talking about how crazy and hellish the brutal battle they've been going through. I mean, going through days of nonstop shelling and nonstop bombings by the Russians. And then on top of that, you're getting waves and waves of people just coming in and attacking, right? Because at first, when this whole war got going, Ukrainians celebrated about how big their military numbers were. Right. And one may ask, well, if they had all these big military numbers and they had all these confiscated Russian weapons, why is it that they're consistently asking the West to not only bolster up their forces, right, but also pad their lost equipment? Like, what's going on? All right. And one of the reasons why that is because of Bakhmut, this town that has little significance, right, to the Ukrainians. But they've committed large forces to defend this particular area. All right. And here's the thing. because a lot of Americans don't understand the Russian strategy versus, the strategy that we're all used to in war. Because we're all used to a blitzkrieg type of situation where, you got the Air Force coming through, they bomb, they blow up everything. Here comes the tanks and the cavalry. They're all marching in and will steamroll the entire country within 100 hours, right? That's really not how the Russians play ball. They don't do it that way, okay? So it's a little bit more tactics to it. Okay, they slowly start to encircle an area and start to squeeze them out by either maintaining fire control on these roads, meaning limiting the amount of supplies that travel in and out of those roads, or they just flat out destroy it and kill anyone that's trying to cross it, right? So that's what they do. And when they slowly start to squeeze the supply lines, right, and squeeze that city, anyone who's trapped in there, it's game over. You either become a prisoner or they kill you off. They take over that town and then they splint off into a new town and they continue that strategy. And for months, and I'm talking about literally months, this was the big strategy with Bakhmut, right? It was their big strategic hub, and now the Russians are on the verge of taking it over. So obviously mainstream media hasn't come out and let you guys know that this is what's happening right now. But by the time that it does, they do come out and say Bakhmut is officially done. You guys know, you heard it here first. They're done. Okay, so Ukraine updates. Russian forces claim to encircle Bakhmut. They claim to encircle Bakhmut, right? And mind you, this is a westernized media source too as well. So people can't say we're being unbiased or anything like that, right? But there's Bakhmut right here. And these are positions that are either being fired upon right now or areas that Russia control. But yet we look at this. Article. It says Russian forces claim to encircle Bakhmut. I don't know about you guys, but this this right here looks like an encirclement to me. Am my eyes deceiving me? This right here looks like an encirclement to me. So they don't claim to encircle Bakhmut. This is what you call an encirclement. You guys can see the roads, right? That lead towards the area, right? You see the big old roads and the tracks that the Ukraine used for supplies, right? They used to get into these other stronghold points over here. Krasnaya Hora is another city that's under attack right now, and you can see the same Russian battle strategy right here, how they basically aim to encircle and cut off those particular roads, right? And with Bakhmut being cut off, that basically gives them, carte blanche all the way over to Kramatorsk. All right, that's where this area over here, another Ukrainian strong point. So they're gonna march all the way over to Kramatorsk, right? And pardon me for my um pronunciations there, right? You got this airport chilling over here, so you already understand that's going to be a target for them, right? And then once they finish this encirclement over here, they're going to basically head on over to Konstantinivka, right? This little area over here, you got little industrial sectors. I mean, if you zoom in areas in the map, you got agricultural areas. So there are tons of areas here that the Russians are going to take over. So as you can see, they are slowly making their way inch by bloody inch towards their freaking goal. So right now, what they're waiting for, because what you guys got to understand is Russia has a big offensive coming. All right. And what they're really good at doing right now is keeping a lot of people guessing on where this offensive is going to come from. People are saying, oh, it's supposed to start early spring. That didn't happen. Oh, it's going to be late spring. That didn't happen. Well, we don't know yet. It's not. We don't know. We're still getting to it, right? Oh, they're waiting for the snow to melt. Oh, they're waiting for the snow to harden. We don't know when the big offensive is coming, right? But I'm going to tell you this, right? That big offensive we see with the buildup of troops. First of all, some of these well-trained troops are already starting to filter their way in to the battlefield in Bakhmut, which explains what we're seeing right now in with the Ukrainians feeling as though that they're being overwhelmed in some of these different fronts, okay? Because they're now running into waves upon waves upon waves of just Russians, right? And they're like, yo, where are all these Russians coming from? It's that mobilization that we were clowning, right? And here's another thing. People in the West now are starting to wake up. A lot of people in the West, and this is one thing that I'm starting to, like I'm starting to be excited about, right? Because people in the West are finally waking up to the propaganda. Because information is spreading real time. It's the same back in the day where, people print out newspaper about what's going on in the war in Vietnam, and they could easily lie about the death numbers until Americans start to see what the fuck's happening, right? You can't do that. Here we got live map of what the hell is going on in the battlefield and live situations where soldiers are literally putting on social media, hey, we're leaving, bro. This is hell. We just escaped hell, literally. Like, like look at this shit. Like they're running. They're letting you know we're just escaping hell. Like this is the hard fought battle, right? Our media, our own government is trying to make it seem like this particular battle means nothing. But we're losing people. Thousands of soldiers have died here, and we gotta go because if we don't leave, the Russians will surround us, and that indeed they will do. Because I believe that big Russian offensive that everyone's talking about isn't gonna fully come until Bakhmut is officially cut off, meaning they cut off the last few roads leading into these areas, and whoever is left in here is done. All right, it is what it is, right? They're it's not official yet if Zelensky is called a retreat on the Bakhmut area, right? If anything, if you listen to some other sources, they're letting you know that he's actually still committing forces to the defense of Bakhmut, right? And some of you guys be like, yo, what the fuck? Even looking at this scenario right now, understanding that we are facing tactical encirclement here, guys. Look at this shit. All right, this is what I call a semicircle. They even have a nice little semicircle around Krasnaya Hora right now, this little area over here. So they are instrumentally taking over. And look how far the fighting has gone, right? Look how far they're going. Like, what are you guys talking about here, right? Why would a leader of a country, why would he then commit more forces to what is clearly an obvious encirclement, an obvious trap? Why isn't this guy Vladimir Zelensky, pulling his troops out of Bakhmut and rearranging them into other fronts that actually matter, right? Maybe down here, right? Because we already know that they're going to be, they've already opened up a southern front down here. So what's going on, right? Well, there are a few reasons why Zelensky can't and has to keep committing forces to Bakhmut, right? The first reason is it's actually very, very important. It's incredibly important. Don't let the mainstream media lie to you. Don't let Volodymyr Zelensky come up there and lie to you. All right. It's very important because if Bakhmut falls, right, first of all, that gives them carte blanche. Sorry, I got to reorient myself here. That gives them carte blanche to go ahead and speed through all the way through whatever is left on this side of the river. That's why it's important, because that's a major breakthrough in your front lines if they capture Bakhmut. Not only that, we already talked about the supply lines and the resources, agricultural resources and manufacturing plants that are already in the city of Bakhmut that they're taking over. So not only they're taking over industrial sectors, right, but they're also, what is the major road? This is the TO5 road right over here that they're talking about. This is right here. This is the big supply road that Russians are claiming that they have control over right now, but we don't know because the mainstream media sources haven't come out and verified it yet, right? It's weird how we're still waiting for that. But this is the main supply road right here, the TO51 road right up here. But as soon as they cut this off, it's a wrap, which leads me to my third but most important point, right? The reason why Zelensky is still committing forces to Bakhmut still, even though they're underneath an operational encirclement, is because of the media itself. That's right. The same media that has convinced you that no, Ukraine, the Bakhmut, it's not under encirclement. What are you talking about? No. Russia is lying. Prigozhin is lying. Okay, all they're doing is throwing Russian soldiers and bodies at the problem. But we Ukrainians, we're standing strong, right? No. That's the crap that Zelensky not only has told the Western media, but he's also lied to his own people about. So now his own people, they've got in their mind that, yeah, Bakhmut is that city. That it's where we're making that stand. It's where our forces, our soldiers are really sticking it to the Russians. Because remember all them losses the mainstream media was talking about, right? They were talking about all those Russian losses. Over 100,000 Russians died, right? All those losses. Well, now it's coming out that, hey, wait a minute, it's actually 100,000 over on the Ukrainian side, and it's not so much the case on the Russian side. A lot of things are not matching up here, right? Once Bakhmut falls, it basically exposes the propaganda. It exposes the lies. But not only that, it serves to severely demoralize the Ukrainian people, not the soldiers. The soldiers are already demoralized. They're on the front lines. They're the ones retreating right now. They know how fucked up shit is in Bakhmut, right? But the Ukrainian people, the poor people in Kiev, still holding out hope that there's going to be this big offensive that Zelensky is holding out on. We just gotta hold on to Bakhmut, because Bakhmut has to buy us that time. But once Bakhmut buys us that time, we have this awesome offensive that's going to take us all the way through the Russian heartline, and we're going to go all the way to Crimea, and we're going to take it all back, and we're going to show them that, you know, Ukrainians won't take the Russians' bullshit, right? That's the bullshit that's been sold to the Ukrainians in Kiev right now. That's the bullshit. So what's going to end up happening is, once Bakhmut falls, it breaks up the entire propaganda. It breaks up the lies. It exposes the West. It exposes Europe. It exposes Zelensky's regime, right? It exposes all of that. But more importantly, it opens Zelensky's up to possibly be deleted out of there. Because now this is a clear sign to not only the Ukrainian people that, first of all, there's no hope of getting Crimea back. That's not happening. And second of all, it's for real. Like, the Russians are at the doorstep. Like, if they got Bakhmut, that means that our city is now the front line. We're now on the front line. That means that we can easily get fucked up, right? That's the mentality that's going to start going through a lot of people, all right? And what comes with that kind of mentality? Panic, right? So because the mainstream media have been telling Westerners and their own people these lies about what was really going on the front lines, they have basically made Bakhmut their last stand, right? Like Custer's last stand before the breakthrough, right? That's what Zelensky has turned this down to. And the Russians, well, what are the Russians doing? The Russians' plan for the war isn't to blitzkrieg their way through it and fuck things up. No. Obviously, they want to take things over, but they don't want to screw everything up too fast. They want to take their time, because you see, the time is on the Russian side. Time is all on their side. That's all they care about, right? Their goal isn't just to win this and, you know, get what they get. They're gonna take over these regions that they deem as theirs, right? There's nothing gonna stop them. Hell, they might even go all the way to Odessa and beyond. The main thing the Russians are doing right now is they want to destroy the Ukrainian army. That's what they're doing. That's what their whole goal is. Their whole goal right now for Bakhmut, right, while we're sitting here in the West laughing at them, oh, it's taking them this long to take over a little town. Why is it taking them this long to take over a little town? They're supposed to be Russia. They're supposed to be mighty. Why is it taking them so long to take over a tiny little town like Bakhmut, right? Not realizing the Russians like, hey, Zelensky wants to keep throwing bodies over here, so let him keep throwing bodies over here. Over 100,000 people are dead. Majority of them in this little town right over here. And the Russians are doing what they're doing. They're grinding these people down. They're chewing up the military. They're chewing up their resources. A lot of resources that could otherwise be where the fighting is on these fronts right over here, they have to be redirected to Bakhmut to protect Zelensky's lies. To protect Zelensky and the Western media lies. And once this falls, it exposes everything. And the Russians know it. The Ukrainians, they don't know it, but Zelensky does. And pretty soon, the rest of the world is about to find out. Right? So you got to ask yourself, like, what's the point? Like, why are we still doing this? What is the whole goal? Like, why aren't we talking about peace right now when there's a whole army about to either be encircled or killed in this little cauldron over here? Why aren't we suing for peace? Why aren't we at least doing things to get ourselves out of the situation, right? Where are our leaders at? Well, you can't look to Europe because there are no leaders in Europe. All right, Europe, we own their politicians. Okay, we all of those politicians in Europe we installed. All right, from Macron to Olaf Scholz, we installed those losers. All right, so why do you think there are protests right now in all these places? Right, the reason why there's protests in all these places is because those governments haven't been acting in the best interest of their people. Right, they've been acting in the best interest of the United States because these guys are vassal states of the United Empire. That's just what it is, right? And now the empire is in decline, so we got to fight for what we got to fight for. But you can't expect Europe to chime up and stop this because Europe, at the behest of the United States, egged on this nonsense. And now they don't know how to get out. So why don't we sue for peace? It's because we got to have war. Now, it sounds crazy what I'm talking about, but we have to have war because the United States, part of keeping an empire and maintaining an empire is making sure that nobody else catches up to what you're doing. Ukraine wasn't new. We've always had a plan for Ukraine and Russia. Matter of fact, it's being played out as we speak. The deep state liberal expansion plan is happening right now. We were supposed to build up Ukrainian forces. We were supposed to arm them with the latest of NATO weapons. And right off the bat, we replaced the leadership with a more, anti-Russia leader like Zelensky. And we put a battery in their back and get them to attack Russia, at least the regions that Russia declares ethnically Russia. So we do all these provocative measures, and then Russia say, "Okay, stop. We're gonna do this. This is what we're gonna do. If you don't stop, we're gonna attack." We went in, they responded, and this is what we're dealing with right now. And guess what? Now we got to open up another front. We got to open up another front. And this one is way off to the east. All right, this one's got to do with Taiwan and a bunch of Chinese. All right, we got to figure something out. So if you guys see what's happening, like I said a long time ago, I didn't say it on this channel, but I mentioned it briefly on my last channel when somebody asked a question on it. I said what you're seeing is a big split right now, a big split, because a lot of the NATO and all these Western institutions, big Westernized institutions like the WEF or WEF, the World Health Organization, the International Monetary Fund, all these Westernized institutions. Remember, all the reason why they exist is to keep United States in power and to have influence on over other countries that does trade and business with it, right? So when you're looking at the outcome and the fallout of the sanctions we're levying against Russia, the nuclear package that we put against them, that basically exposed that, hey, if you invest your money or assets in the West, they could just take your money. They could just shut you out, right? So other countries are seeing this and they're saying, well, we need to diversify because right now the West is our biggest trading partner, but they just proved that if there were any kind of conflict whatsoever, they just have to slap tariffs on us or they'll sanction us, right? And then now we're fucked up because we put most of our stock in this Westernized system. We need to diverse. And that's what you're starting to see now. A lot of countries, small or big, they're diversing from the U.S. economy and they're forming either their own regional groups or a big group like BRICS or the BRICS, right? Which involves Brazil, Iran, China, Russia, right? These are the start of it, right? You're going to see a big divide between the East and the West, all right? And what you're going to see is a financial Cold War. That's going to take off in addition to a military Cold War because after this nonsense in Ukraine is over with, best believe if Ukraine is left standing, we're still going to arm them. And every single country in Europe, they're going to go through a period of arming, right? So you'll see a big ass Cold War in the East, right? Once this whole thing is over with. But what you're also going to see, I don't know if this map goes far back. I got to go to the other map. But what you're also going to see is kind of a Cold War style buildup way on China borders with Taiwan. We're already doing it with Japan. We just started a joint operations command with them, right, where our troops go train their troops, and then we form a nice little communication link. So if and when something does break out, these guys are fighting to the effectiveness of westernized NATO troops. Tell me if this sounds familiar. So, guys, I'm saying this, right, because we got to be informed about this, right? That this is what a lot of guys. First of all, we're headed towards those times where you could be carted off the war, and there's nothing else you can do about it, right? Because when rich ways war, it's the rest of us who die for it. We pay for it, right? That's what's going on. So we have to understand what's going on, and this more than ever has to put a battery in our backs to start holding our people responsible. Because if you're thinking some other leader in Europe is going to come out and stand up for this shit and stop it, it's not going to happen. If you think someone in the Republican Party is going to come out and stand for this shit, it's not going to happen. If you think someone in the Democratic Party is going to come out and stand up for this shit, it's not going to happen, because we have a one-party state in the United States. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Democrat, Republicans, all right? Notice every time they come together is when you're being fucked. That's how that works, okay? So we have a one-party state in this country. The only hope that we have is the fact that this little shred of democracy, this little charade that we still hold on to, we better utilize that. We better hold some of these guys responsible. Like, we better make sure that this next voting cycle matters, because either we get Biden up out of here, because this is Biden's war. No one in the media is saying this, right? They're going to call it Russia, Putin's war. This is Biden's war. And I better hear this across all mainstream media platforms, all right? Because I'm not hearing this. This is a Biden war, right? Just like we say Iraq was a Bush war, this is a Biden war. And this war will not stop until he is up out of there. And his replacement, we're not talking about Kamala, because that's going to be an equal disaster. But his replacement is someone who understands that we need to focus on the people of this country, not the people of other countries in which we screwed over. Because you mark my words, when this is all over and these young people of Ukraine wake up, they would realize that they were used by the West, the rest, collective West nations. We all use them. And they're not going to forgive us. None of them will. And that's all I got to say for you guys today for the news. We'll keep. I'm trying to keep more updated on this channel, because like shit are popping off. I do believe that we are gonna head off into World War III. I do definitely believe that. And now that like the signs are obviously clear, I'm going to be doing more videos on this to keep track of this, so at least keep y'all informed of where the hell we're headed, right? Because there seems to be a lot of distraction in this world, right? And we're not focusing on what really matters. So guys, stay sharp, stay educated, read smart, okay? Don't be stupid, all right? And pay attention to what you're being told, all right? There are liars all around us. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.